Greetings and welcome to an LGR thing, where today we're going to be looking at the Samsung Gear VR virtual reality headset powered by Oculus. And yes, this is one of those things where you insert your phone into it, much like the idea of Google Cardboard, but a heck of a lot more involved in practice. Like seriously, I've compared them both. Let me just go ahead and talk about that really quick, because I've seen a lot of people saying, why would you get this if this is $100, you can get Cardboard for like $5 or $10 or something. Well, this is basically the idea of Google Cardboard here. This is the Knox Labs V2. It doesn't matter, you can make one yourself. This just has a couple lenses in it and a little thingy for pressing on the screen. And this lets you get a really rudimentary idea of the possibilities of VR. But there's no sensors in here. The lag is terrible. There's a lot of latency issue. It makes me sick using this absolutely instantly. It's a good way to get just a quick and dirty, cheap way into VR, just to kind of see what it's like to look around in there. But this is head and shoulders above it, absolutely. I've been using this thing for about 2 months now. And, you know, now that the initial, oh my goodness, it's so cool factor has worn off, I would like to maybe give some honest thoughts about it. And, well, let me just go ahead and open the package here, because, for one thing, the presentation of this whole deal is going to be a whole lot cheaper than the Rift is at $600, and, I mean, that makes sense, you know, it's just a little plasticky thing. This plastic on here is all pretty cheap and whatnot. I mean, it basically is a big phone case, right? But it does have a lot more going on as far as these lenses in here. There's adjustments right here for, you know, different distances and everything, and it's got a bunch of sensors built in here, which are great. We'll talk about those here momentarily. So yes, of course, you do need a compatible Samsung phone to use this thing. So already that's limiting its audience, right? I mean, you need the Note 5, the S6 Edge, the S6, or the S6 Edge in order to run this thing. I have the Note 5 here because I upgraded from a Note Edge. I didn't like the Edge thing after using it for about 1.5 years, so that's what I ended up getting. But, you know, if you don't have one of these Samsung phones, this may not be the best choice. If you do, this is awesome, because it's only $99 for an experience that is really close in many ways to what I had with the Rift DK2 and other early edition VR headsets that were, you know, about 1 year or so ago. So here, let me show you how it works. First off, you have to take off any phone case, even the thinnest one. I got one of these really thin phone cases from Samsung. I'm thinking maybe it would fit in here with the case, but nope. And what you do is you just turn your screen on here so that it's right there, and then it's got a little micro USB deal right here, and all you do is, there you go, and it detects that it's been plugged in. It's already ready to go. All I have to do is this, and when it makes that little sound, it means that it has detected that you're looking at it, and it's actually got these little sensors in here. See, now the screen is turned off, so it's not wasting your battery if you're not using it. So I could just leave it on right here and plugged into this, and it's, you know, got the screen turned off and everything. So I think that's such a cool little feature as far as, you know, you don't have to turn off the screen manually. Another thing that is just super convenient about this is the fact that there's no setup involved. If you have one of these phones and it's got the latest, you know, firmware and everything, then there you go. You just have to plug it in there. It'll bring up this little setup screen, and it'll ask you a couple questions, but other than that, I mean, it's there. It's ready to go. You don't have to mess with drivers or weird ports or HDMI incompatibilities like the Rift was and everything. It was painless and absolutely a breeze to get into. Another great thing is the fact that it uses the Oculus store front thing for the Gear VR. And this is, of course, powered by Samsung, so it does, you know, have a bit of a walled garden thing going on here as far as you can't just find and download anything through it to play on here. But there's a lot of great experiences already on that storefront that you can check out. And if you want to run your own, like, APKs and whatnot, I'm sure you can do that. I haven't messed with that yet, but, yeah. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, on the side here, this is really neat too, and I kind of wish the Rift had this, the DK2 at least. it has this little D-pad thing here, and this is like a capacitive touch thing. You tap it, and you can move up, right, left, and up, down, left, right. And there's a button here in the middle that you just tap like you would a touch screen. There's also this back button here, which is a universal back. It just backs you out of whatever you're doing. And those combined mean that you don't have to use a controller with this if you don't want to. Like 90% of the stuff that you can do with the Gear VR, you don't need a controller for. So, I mean, all you do is just have this, and you look around at whatever you need to select, and then tap the side of your head to select it. Or this to control yourself in a lot of games. It makes a lot of sense. Now, if you do want to use a Bluetooth controller, you can use like a PS4 controller or the Samsung whatever controller. I ended up going with this one here. This is the Moga Power Pro. I just find this to be a very solid, awesome controller for Bluetooth stuff, and it also lets you, you know, plug in your phone here if you want to like do that whole thing. I just wanted it for the Gear VR purposes, and it works great for that. Like I said, a lot of games and experiences on here don't actually need that. One thing that you do need, though, in my opinion, is some sort of way to deal with fog. Because this thing is so sealed up in here, and there's like no ventilation, like, at all. So fogging is much worse of a problem on the Gear VR than it ever was for me on the DK2. So this is one thing that people seem to really recommend. It's called Quick Spit Anti-Fog. You basically spray it on there, you let it dry for a while, and then you gently wipe it off after it dries. And it works well after, you know, a couple of applications, but I found one that actually works better to be the Clarity Defog It wipes. And these are just little wipes that you can use about 10 times, and you just, you know, and rub it off, and it actually does a better job, and it's much less messy than the Quick Spit. However, this is going to last you a lot longer, whereas these, they're pretty expensive for just a few packs of them, so it's more expensive, but it does work better in my experience. Alright, so if you want, you can actually plug this little dealie right here in the front of it to make it look a little less stupid. But I found that it comes off really easily. I mean, good grief. So I just leave it off most of the time. And if you do leave it on, that also means that you can't use the camera pass-through ability, which is another neat little thing for the Gear VR. So it actually uses your camera here. And when you're wearing this, you press the back button down and you can enable pass-through. And this lets you see without taking off the VR thing itself. So it just enables a quick and kind of crappy way of looking through it. It doesn't work very well. The lag is terrible, and the FOV is like, it's like looking through a picture frame about this big. It's not something I would recommend doing, but it's good if you need to like look out really quick. I don't know. The thing is, it's so easy to just take on and off. I mean, there you go. I'm ready to use it, and I am looking around in VR right now. It is that quick and simple. You'll note that I did have to take off my glasses, though. There's not enough space in here to use this with glasses. That's kind of a problem. Thankfully, I can use it without glasses because I don't know, something sighted and it works okay. What am I? I guess I'm nearsighted. So I can see things close up pretty well. But yeah, you might want to get contacts or, you know, just deal with blurriness if you have glasses. So that sucks. Another disadvantage with this is, you know, when I got this, I was thinking that you could really use this for on-the-go everything, right? Like, I had this crazy idea of, man, I could get on a plane or ride in the back of a car or a train or bus, whatever, and just have this on and, like, sit back in my own personal movie theater and just watch a movie. Well, that doesn't really work in a lot of cases because the sensors that are in here detect when you're moving and turning and everything, and even if you don't feel it so much, this thing will detect it because of the gyroscopes in there, meaning that if you're moving in a car, it's going to be thinking you're moving around in the virtual world, so it makes that impossible for a lot of situations. However, there are some things like Netflix and the movie theater and whatever that have a travel mode that you can enable. It will turn off that gyroscopic stuff, and you can basically just still look around in 360 degrees very well. Now, you might be wondering why I haven't been showing any gameplay footage, and there's a good reason for that. At this point in time, the Note 5 does not work with any of my capture solutions. I've tried 7 or 8 pieces of software for Android that's supposed to let you capture the screen. None of them worked. I've tried the external solutions, plugging in USB, which is another cool thing. You can actually have, it has a USB pass-through here, so you can keep it powered while you're using it. Oh yeah, there's another couple little things here I forgot about. So you have a volume control right here, which is also really handy, so you don't have to take it out to adjust the volume. And it has a spot that makes it really easy to plug in your headphones there. Overall, I think they really thought this thing out pretty freaking well. This is just a wonderful way to show people VR without getting into some big complicated setup that's grounded to like a computer somewhere or with a bunch of wires. Like I tried to show people the DK2 when I was showing that thing off when I first got it, and there was a lot of hassle getting people to not get tangled up in the wires and all that. Well, with this, it doesn't matter. It's just like, just plop it on your head and readjust it to their head size. That's it. Maybe this right here, which just moves the screen forwards and backwards a little bit to make it clearer. There are some notable downsides, though. Disregarding the fact that you can't really use this if you're in a moving vehicle very well. It's convenient that it uses your phone, but it's also really inconvenient that it uses your phone. If you think about it, right? This is a phone screen, and these are prone to getting dirty or scratched or anything. And when you look at it with these magnified lenses, a speck of dust is like half an inch big on the VR screen, and it's no good. Or if this side gets dirty, or if this side gets dirty, now you have 2 sides of lenses to worry about getting dirty or scratched. There's just a lot of potential there for really distracting artifacts on the screen when you're using it. The other thing, of course, is that it uses phone battery like crazy. And some of the apps will warm this thing up till it's hot to the touch. It's kind of scary, actually. I don't like to use it for maybe longer than an hour at a time. I have watched a couple 2-hour movies with it, and that was surprisingly awesome with the included movie theater app thing that it comes with. It didn't get too hot, and my eye strain was fine. This does actually have a higher resolution than the DK2 had, so there's a little bit less of that screen door effect that you hear a lot of people talking about with VR, but of course it's still there. It needs to be a lot higher resolution for that to be gone. But it is better than the DK2. But I'm sure that the Rift itself and like the HTC Vive, once those are all out and finished this year, those are going to be much higher quality than this. But man, overall, this is such a neat little device. I've had so much fun with this thing. And if you have a compatible phone, absolutely go for it. There is seriously, in my mind, no reason not to try it if you have $100 that you can spare. Obviously, if not, whatever. What you can do, though, is go to a Best Buy or anywhere that they sell like flagship Samsung products, and you can actually try it out on the store floor. And, they have it seem to be set up pretty well at the stores that I've tried it at. So give it a shot. It's free there, so why not, man? Another slight downside is the fact that there is no positional head tracking on this thing. So if you're moving forwards, backwards, this way, that way, up or down, it's not going to detect any of that. It basically treats you like your head is on the top of a tripod and you're looking around in 360 degrees, which is fine for most of what's on here. You see a lot of 360 degree video type of apps and games where you're just sort of in one spot and looking around. That's fine when you designed for that, but it makes it hugely disorienting if you're in any kind of situation where you feel like you want to do this. It just doesn't match, so it kind of gets a little nauseating. So, you're going to need something like the Rift or the Vive in order to get that experience, because there's no external camera to track your head. And of course, something to keep in mind, may go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that these are going to be running on phone hardware, all the games and apps and whatnot. And as powerful as these things are nowadays, they pale in comparison to the gaming PC experience that you're going to be getting with the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift itself. So, if you're looking for something that's really, really high-end, then this is just not going to cut it for you. It may be a little disappointing that you're basically playing mobile games on this. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the Gear VR. Wonderful, wonderful little device for an entry-level VR thing that is not freaking cardboard. Nothing against cardboard, again, because it's so cheap and it's so easy to just pick up any phone, basically, and just stick in there, and there you go. You can kind of see VR, quotes, everywhere. Because it's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's just looking at a phone screen really closely, whereas this is tracking a lot more. It's got the extra sensors so that there's just no lag, latency, or whatever. It still is 60 hertz, so it's not as smooth as it could be, but it's, it never made me nauseous, except for those few moments where the head tracking, I expected to be there, and it wasn't there. Right, so that's my thoughts on the Samsung Gear VR. Once again, if you'd like to check out some of my other videos on other VR products that I've touched on in the past, then you can click some of these, or just stick around here and look for things in the future that I'm definitely going to be covering whenever I can get my hands on them. I want to check out the consumer version of the Rift and the Vive and, I don't know, whatever else happens to come along, a PlayStation thing. Yeah, I love this stuff. I'm optimistic about it, but cautiously so, because at this point, we're already seeing a fractured market. Some developers not supporting this stuff, and others are, and, one model or the other. It's going to be interesting to watch. So, yeah, stay tuned, and as always, thank you for watching.